Alright boys, welcome to, and girls, sorry, welcome to today's video. And I was pondering what I wanted to show you guys and what I wanted to do for the next video. And since I had this Panzer IV as C for the French campaign sitting on my to-do list, I decided why not show you guys in one, maybe two installments, how I paint my 35th scale armor. And as you can see, we have my airbrush, my trusted Harder Steenbeck Infinity 2-in-1. It has the pressure control valve here. It has currently the big needle nozzle set, like the 0.5 in here, no, 0.4 I think. Which is a shame because normally this would come with a 0.15 needle nozzle as well as the 0.4, but my 0.15 nozzle broke. So I'm currently in a position where I have to buy a new nozzle. And I have been in that position for quite a while, so I'm currently using the big needle nozzle set, which kind of makes it hard to control the airflow as well as I would like. And it's a great airbrush. It's a high-end airbrush with a quick release valve for the air pressure or the airflow. I'm using a Sparmax compressor with a big tank, quality compressor as well. Can only recommend that. If you want to know exactly which one, I will write it in the description of the video so you can find it there. Of course, I primed the model with Vallejo one-shot primer. Not Vallejo, sorry. Ammo by Make one-shot primer. It's a great primer. It's basically the Badger Steinelrest primer that has been rebranded for Make Ammo. You could also go with the Ultimate primer from Ultimate Modeling Products. It's the same stuff. Although I have to say, I think that the one-shot primer is a bit thinner compared to the Ultimate as well as the Steinelrest. So I think that they changed the formula a little bit for the one-shot primer. I will also be using this. This is Vallejo's Chem Black Brown, and I use this as a base color all over the vehicle to make it easier for me to do the chipping when it comes to the rust tones, because this is basically the rust tone color. And I will help myself with AK's heavy chipping fluid, which I will then be spraying over the top of the Chem Black Brown before I apply the camo, or in this case the dark gray or Panzer gray paints. And as you can see, I have the AK modulation set for Panzer Gray sitting next here, and I'll not be doing a full modulation, but I will be using some of them to just like create some shadows and just make it look a little bit more interesting. I'll do mild modulation, but not full modulation. So the first step, of course, will be to paint the vehicle in the primer, and I have to do something different, and I'll show you guys in a second here. Since the interior of this is actually visible because I have hatches open, I will be painting the interior in interior white, which is cream white or creme weiß, RAL 9001, also a Make Ammo color. And I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to paint the interior with the Chem Black Brown first, or I'll just do the chipping manually inside. Because I don't think using the chipping fluid on the inside is worth it. So I will probably just paint it in white and then do the chipping manually. But you will see in a second. So once I've made up my mind, you will see what I do next, because this is what we will be doing first in this video, painting the inside. So I'll see you in just a second. Okay boys, so now the next step that we will have to tackle is painting the inside of our turret. And for thinning purposes, I'm using the Ultimate Modeling Airbrush Thinner, and like I said, the ammo of Make Cream White. Always shake the paints really well. And I'm not doing this on screen now because that would look just weird. And I'm using rubber gloves on the hand that holds the model, just so I don't screw this up. What you can also do is take a cocktail stick, and with this, it actually offers me the option to just like stick it on there like so, which is a cool thing. And as you can hopefully hear, the ammo by MIG paints have a small metal ball in them that helps with shaking the paints. Of course, always have some paper towels handy for cleaning stuff and just when something goes awry. Then we want to mix the paint in our airbrush. I want to use a couple of drops. Ten drops of the white. As you can see, already ruined our. And then we add 5 drops of the thinner. And then there are multiple ways of mixing your paint in the brush cup. You can either do it like this, and then you can see bubbles forming in there that show you that the paint is mixing with the thinner. And once it's perfectly thinned, the bubbles change in the way they look. And then of course you can always just use a brush and thin a bit more, and paint was not thinned enough, so just added a bit more of the thinner. And of course always have tap water handy, or if you live in an area like me where the tap water is a bit too carbonated and where there's too much carbon basically in it, use filtered water, which you can buy. And then, and I think I'm spraying at, ouch, 23 psi right now. This is not. Always try to test whether or not the spray is good, then I can like use it on a. And we don't need to cover this in one go. But build up like nice smooth layers. Try not to get it on the outside where you will later apply the gray, Panzer gray. Try to concentrate on the inside. And while we are doing the top stuff, I don't need this actually because I haven't painted the underneath. So as you can see, we are slowly building up the paint. And we are experiencing some clogging up of the airbrush tip, which you can always clean up with Q-tips. Just wet a Q-tip with water or with your thinner, and then clean the tip of the airbrush, the needle. And then continue to spray it. Once again, The problem with white paints over a black base is always that it takes them a while to start becoming opaque, and the opaqueness level takes a while to reach the levels that you would like. White might have been a bit more useful for me to use light gray primer on the inside. The thing about the Mick Ammo paints is that they are a little bit thin when it comes to pigments, and they could do with a bit more like pigment density. And you can tell by the number of coats that I actually have to apply before we reach a satisfactory level of opaqueness. Don't forget to paint the interior details underneath. And I might have just over-thinned the paint a bit, which might be one of the reasons why it takes me so long to just cover all of this. And we can see some running of the paint, actually, which is not desired, to be honest. I really don't dig this. So if that's the case, we can always just add a bit more paint, which I think we have to do here. And since we will have to paint the inside of the turret as well, we need to make some more paint anyway. So we keep mixing. You want that milky consistency for your paint, and if you reach the milky consistency, you're good to go. And there we go. The turret basket is now painted. We can put this to the side, and then we take our turret. And we gotta be careful because, as you can see, I have one of the turret hatches open. So since we don't want to like spread too much of the paint on the outside, we can just cover it up like this. We gotta be a little more careful here because we want to like keep as little, get as little of that paint onto the outside of the tank, because we then have to repaint the exterior because we want a uniform surface for our camouflage on the outside. And again, always clean your needle, because if you don't, you will get like paint blobs all over the model. Once there's like paint collecting on the needle tip, it will just start blobbing all over your model. Oh, we broke off something. Nice. We'll have to repair something. As you can see, there's a piece of material laying there. But we can repair this. And with the MIG paints, every now and then, I realize that you have to just go in there with your brush and re-stir it. Because they tend to, like, I don't know, to separate. The pigment tends to separate from the liquid, which is not a good thing. Every now and then you want to just like spray air through your airbrush to help it dry. And then again, clean the airbrush needle. So we're almost done here with painting the cream white. What we are doing after that is adding some chipping effect to the inside here with a sponge and a brush. But we will have to, of course, wait till our interior white dries, because I don't want to do this when the paint is not perfectly dry. Alright, so we can now let this sit, recheck on this if there's like areas where we need to touch up, and there are a couple of areas where we are flooding our model. Great, yay me. Don't do this if you can prevent it at any cost. Like I said that before, I'm not the best painter in the world, but I'm trying to improve, which is why I'm doing these videos, because I force myself to be a bit more careful. So this is the interior paint done, and we will let this sit now for a while, and then I'll come back and I'll do the interior chipping. So until then, here we go. Okay, boys, as you can see, I painted some of the interior details off camera with a brush, added some anthracite to the handles, I painted the seats, painted the back that catches the spent shells, painted the recoil mechanism, the gun breech, and now, thanks to the fact that this is for some reason not a matte but a satin color, we will be applying a light wash before we do the chipping. And this is MIG Ammo Interiors Wash. I've never used this before, so this is the first time for me, but we'll see how this works. And of course, always keep your white spirit handy, so you always have this around if you need it. And then for the first time, let's open this and see how this, as you can see, it's a gray brownish color, and use a small brush, small pointy brush, can moisten it up, and add some of the wash to the brush, and then just do a pin wash around the details. And I hope you don't mind the kids playing outside, counting in German for some weird reason. The neighbors' children, they are a little bit annoying, gotta say. I was playing with their ball. Let me zoom in a bit more here. Maybe I can. There you go. Maybe I can show you how I apply the wash to this a little more in depth. You can see, thanks to the fact that the paint is satin, the wash kind of runs around the details and doesn't collect, or doesn't flood the model as you would get with matte paints. And then of course always you can dip your brush in the white spirit to add a bit more. There you go. See, we haven't applied wash here. I'll just do this right now. And you can then see the detail start to pop, which I think is always a good thing, or an important thing, to have a nice wash on your model to accentuate the details and to just add a bit more like three-dimensionality, is that the word? I don't know. Yeah, there you go. Trying not to forget any areas. There we go. This is a very light wash, I have to say, and I like the fact that it's a light wash because while this is the fighting compartment and the crews didn't have much time to clean it, I don't think they wanted to live in a shithole, because this is basically where they lived during the war. So they basically had to keep this clean because this is where they spent most of their day, if not all of their day. And if this was, well, a shithole, I don't know if you would have felt happy sitting in a shithole all day. Sorry if I happened to get out of shot for a second there. I'm just trying to stay as zoomed in as possible while I try to see what I'm doing as well, because I don't want to apply this without seeing, because then I might just mess this up, and I don't want to mess this up now. So I'm not in the mood to redo this. Yeah, so I just want to make sure to get the wash everywhere it would go. It's all the nooks, crannies. There. And you can see how the look changes when you compare this side to this side where I haven't applied a wash. And now I'm just going to apply the wash, and you can see how this changes in look. And there we go. And you can already see this now looks a lot more plastic. a lot more three-dimensional. It adds just a lot, I think. And this is a task that takes some time, and you need to be patient. You can't just be like, oh, I need this to be over, come on, hurry, hurry, be quick, and try to do this like in the shortest possible amount of time. No, you need to take your time for this step, because this is an important step. And I gotta say, I think I need to shake the bottle again, because I think that we are losing pigment density on our wash, which is why I just dipped the brush in the cap of the bottle, because there is some pigment in there. So yep, here we go. Here's some of the white spirit in connection with the wash that is caught in the bottle cap, and now we can add a wash to the attachment points here for the turret basket on the turret basket floor. Make them pop, because those are areas where some of the grease would really collect. So you can really like go ham down there. That sounds so wrong. That just sounded wrong, didn't it? And then on the diamond plating down in the turret basket, you of course can also use a bit more of the wash to just make it pop a little. Of course, you will go back later and blend this with the white spirit, because you don't want to overdo this, because if you overdo it, there's like, I don't know, no need for care. So you can use a bigger brush, just dip it in the wash, spread some of it on the floor just to make sure that it helps to kind of off color the white a bit more, which I think is important. So there you go. A couple corners there where I need to go back in, where there still isn't wash. Like now there is some wash there. Don't forget like important areas where you would have dirt collect, because it's going to be tough to go back in once you're done. And then you can just like use a very diluted mix of this, just a lot of white spirit with some of the wash color, and just basically spread it all over the rest of your model here, just to make sure to kind of like form a uniform surface. And of course, yeah, wanna add some wash here in those crevices here along the front. The gun, the elevation and targeting mechanism might need a wash. Alright, and the gunner seat, which according to some of the reference photos that I used, actually was not covered, like did not have a soft skin cover like the commander's seat and the loader's seat. They were both like covered with some fabric, whereas the gunner seat wasn't, which I think is weird, to be honest, but it is what I saw in the pictures, so that's why I didn't like paint the gunner seat right there, and I left it in like the interior color. So yeah, this is the dirt basket, and we'll quickly do the same thing, adding the wash to the upper part of the turd. But before, let me shake the wash bottle again, and I can see that my camera battery is almost dying, so we'll have to do this quickly. And again, shake the wash real good. So I'm going to take a medium-sized brush, dip it in there, and then just add the wash where we need it. And you can see how the details begin to just show up so much more. Always put the wash around like rivets, bolts. Make sure, like I said, just make sure not to overdo it. If you overdo it, it will look unrealistic. Those things would get dirty, yes, but the crews would also clean them every now and then. And you want to make sure, sorry, trying to keep it in shot if I can, to make sure of that. So there we go. Nice details there, and you can see, thanks to the fact that the paint was kind of semi-glossy, it allows us to just like have it run around the details without adding like a gloss coat, which I actually didn't want to do for this, because I was like, why would I? It's only the interior. If I would like apply gloss here, this would just be too much, I think. And I figured, because you cannot see like a lot of this even through the open hatch, so yeah. Of course, where you want to add it is like the hatch detail itself, because as you can see, that was a lot. That was too much. If you do it like this, like I just did, and you kind of flood it, you can always just add some white spirit and move the wash a little, making sure that you don't flood it like I just did. And again, I get the feeling that I need to shake this a lot longer and a lot more thorough, and maybe even like put it in a separate container, because the top layer of this already is like kind of bleak when it comes to wash. Like the pigment density is already down, so I'm using the more dense pigment in the lid. Okay, and then we can just add a bit more here on the outside, because this is the hatch that will actually be visible, because this is the hatch that will be open. So we want to add some of the wash there as well. All the while making sure not to overdo it. And then, like we did with the turd basket, thin down or wash a bit more, and then kind of use it as a filter for the door. Alright, there we have it. So now I will let this sit and dry. And since this is enamel paints, they will dry a lot faster than acrylics. The wash will. And once it's dry, we can then start applying the chipping. And I'll be back for that. And then we'll finish episode 1 of this when all is done with chipping. And maybe I'll use a bit more oil paint to like do some yeah, dirt and grimy stuff on the dirt floor, but that's just, yeah, I don't know, just yet. I might do that. So yeah, so I'll be right back and then we'll do the chipping. All right, now that the wash is dry, we can continue with chipping the interior. And as you can see, I will be using the sponge method for the chipping on the interior. I will be doing chipping with a brush on the exterior, but for the interior I think using a brush is easier, quicker, and a lot less of a hassle than than using a brush. So for that I need a palette where I can put my paint, and as I said earlier, I will be using this Chem Black Brown from Vallejo Model Air. It's a very dark brown color, and as always, shake the bottle real well, because when they sit for a long time, and you can see this at the bottom, the pigment kind of collects at the bottom, and so you need to shake it real well to mix both the liquid and the pigments together. And we're going to start with the lower part of the turd. This need to put this in the shot perfectly here so you guys can see what I'm doing. Then we add our paint to the palette. Then we need a piece of kitchen paper. Put it to the side. Put it to this side so I can show you what I'm going to do with this in a second. And then we take the sponge and just rip off a small piece like this. And this is already too big, so we only need a much smaller piece. And then we can kind of like use this tweezers to kind of manipulate this. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put this into our tweezers like this. Then we're going to dip it into the paint. And then you can see there's a lot of paint on this. And then we use the piece of kitchen towel to clean it off. And then we want to just dip it around the edges of parts where the crew would touch the vehicle often, where like wear and tear would occur, and just gently apply it with sponge. Some areas you may go a little heavier. Of course, you want to focus on edges. Yet sometimes, of course, you can add chips to up surfaces. Let me zoom in so you guys can actually see what I'm doing here. And currently chipping the mechanism here for the gunner. As you can see, we're just adding small chips there, and now we can add some small chips here to the turret ring, the turret basket here. The crew would often just touch these areas to just like grab them or like just get a hold, and by doing so they would of course chip and flake the paint. For example, the traverse mechanism here on the gun definitely will be well used. Thus we can add a bit more chips there. Then we want to reload our sponge, and again, clear it on the piece of kitchen towel. Don't overdo it. If you overdo it, this can lead to very unsatisfactory results that you will have a hard time cleaning up. Of course, like the seat area here would see a lot of wear because the commander would sit there and then stand on it when he looks out of the cupola. So there will be some more wear here in these areas. Of course, you want to make sure not to lose hold of the sponge. The paint will be a little more chipped behind there because it would stand there. And of course, like I said, the gunner's seat didn't have a soft cushion, so the paint would probably get heavily chipped and worn underneath the gunners behind, so might want to go a bit heavier on the chipping on the gunner's seat. And then of course, an area where you cannot forget is the floor of the turret ring, especially around the corners again, because this is where they stored the ammunition, and when they wanted to access the ammunition, of course they had to crawl down there, pull out the ammunition from the ammo storing racks, and thus touch it and maybe even scratch it with the shells upon taking them out of the racks. For some weird reason, I'm losing a hold of the sponge while trying to chip this part right here a little heavier. Yes, so like this. And then, okay, this area right here. Of course, don't forget these, because again, there's a lot of action inside of the tank. Okay. There we go. So this is this part of the turret. Let's now move over to this part of the turret, and I'm sorry if I get out of the shot, but I'm trying to concentrate on the model while also trying to leave it in shot for you guys to see what I'm doing, and it's not the easiest task, I gotta say, so bear with me. So I'm just gonna zoom out just a tiny little bit more. That makes it a little easier for me to show you what I'm doing while still concentrating on putting chips where I want them to go and not overdoing it, because it can be quite tricky. And there are already some areas where I think I overdid it. But like I said, since this is the interior of the turret, it's not that big of a deal. If this was the exterior, I would probably already be swearing loudly right now, because some of this is a bit overdone already, and I don't really like to overdo chipping nowadays. I used to overdo it a lot earlier on earlier models, and I try to really slow myself down a bit more. The open hatch here again, you got to be really careful. Of course, the hatches are always areas where there would be a lot more wear and tear compared to other parts of the vehicle, and especially around the corners of the hatches. The crew would touch them quite frequently. So you want to not overdo it, while at the same time not underdo it either. And I think the way it looks now, I can really live with. Just need to add a bit more here to the recoil mechanism and the recoil guard. Okay, that was overdoing it now, and luckily this is perfectly in shot. Awesome. Screw it. So yeah, and then last but not least, the last bit you want to do is chip the inside here where the commander cupola is. Underneath that, you may also want to chip that a bit, and the vision blocks as well. And then we're almost there. And I have to say, the tweezers I'm using are a piece of shit. I keep the pressure the same way, and I'm not letting loose, yet the tweezers are kind of, I don't know, losing grip on the sponge, which is kind of annoying. And since this is the case, I'm now switching over to a brush. If just for doing some chipping on the other hatch here. No, that was too heavy. Oh man. Yeah, I totally screwed that up. But like I said, this is the side that you don't see much of, if only through the hatch afterwards, and I think you can, it's okay. So yeah, that's that now. Let me put this there so I can zoom in so you guys can see what I just did. Hopefully. You can see some of the chipping, and you can see for weary there, you can see the chipping on the other door. So since this is the inside of the tank, it would not rust as much because it doesn't get that moist inside of a tank. There will be, of course, some rust, and just so I can at least simulate some rust, I'm going to use an AK interactive product again, and just add some like really small spots of rust that I then am going to blend with white spirits almost instantaneously. So again, oh sorry, this is Rust Streaks from AK Interactive, and I'm gonna use this basically only to like add to some of these rusty spots here where it's like really rusty or really chippy, where there's a lot of chipping. I'll just add this deliberately, and you will see in a second what I mean, what I'm going to do. As you can see, I'm just like stippling this on. We're going to blend this in a second. Same here, just a tiny bit of rust, tiny bit. Not all of the areas will get this treatment, just like very prominent chips. And I will be doing different chipping on the exterior of this tank, and you will see this when we are talking about the exterior in part 2 of this series, because I want this to be like a 2-part series where I talk you through like the entire, like, or actually 3-part series where I talk you through the entire process of painting, weathering, like the full-on go, like paint, oils, pigments, and stuff, and like the full program. And like you see now, I'm using white spirit to dampen the effect, to just blend the rust. You cannot see it because I'm out of shot again. Sorry for that. Just stump it with the white spirit on the brush. You're almost removing all of it, but since your vehicle, or the color here, is a whitish tone, it will still leave this little bit of red hue that you would expect for some rusty surface. So this is all I'm doing here, basically, just adding some rusty See, that was too much. I almost screwed this up. Yay. It's been a long video, it's been a long day, because this all happened within one day. So if you want to know how long this took me to get here from the start of the day, it was only one day. So this whole turret paint, of course it was primed already, and I primed this with, and I told you, the one-shot primer. And then I let it sit for a day. You want to let your primer dry for one day before you add more color. So yeah, that was one day. So this is basically a 2-day thing. And there we go. So let me quickly clean up the brush. Clean up the bench, and then I'll show you what we achieved with just basic techniques within one day. And I hope you guys learned something here, and I hope you guys thought it was helpful. So let me zoom out. And as you can see, this is the finished interior of the tank, weathered and painted. I can now put this together and stick this together, and then we have a painted door here, which you can look through. Same goes for the top, of course. You cannot see much because the light comes from there and there, so it's not working. But yeah, the interior of this is now done, luckily. Next up, whoa, let's not break it, is the rest of the tank, exterior. And we will be doing this in the next part, and I will be also talking about the tracks. So I hope you guys like this, the way I did this today, and I hope some of you will be back for the next installment. And I don't know when exactly this will happen, but probably soon. Till then, thank you guys for watching. This is Holland Modeling, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.